name's Ken Kilbride. I'm from ADHD Ireland. You're very welcome to our Masterclass series here today. Just to let you know, we'll be getting going in about 30 to 50 seconds. We just want to give everybody an opportunity to get in, sit down, make sure you have a cup of tea in front of you. We're all ready to go this side, and just give us 30 seconds, a minute, and we'll be all good to go. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Once again, you're very welcome to our Masterclass series. And the series has been brought to you over a number of years by a worldwide conglomeration, organisations interested from a wide across the sectors in neurodiversity. So we would have started off with ADHD Ireland, UCD, and National Institute of Maynooth here in Dublin. And over a number of years, we brought in additional partners. So we now have ION, who are the Institute of Neurodiversity, who are a worldwide organisation, and we've Untapped from Australia, and we've some other organisations on a worldwide basis. And we've covered a variety of topics across the neurodiversity spectrum, from autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and other conditions, and how they interact with society and other conditions like that as well. Today we're going to have a look at work, and we're very happy today that Pierre is joining us. And as I say, Pierre is a Neurodiversity Talent Program Director at Ubisoft. He's 27 years experience in the video game industry and is a father of neurotypical children. Pierre has seen firsthand the powerful connection and creativity. In 2021, he created an employee resource group focused on neurodiversity that brings together more than 600 employees from 20 different countries to provide peer support and raise awareness. In his current role with Ubisoft, Diversity and Inclusion team, Pierre oversees the Ubisoft Neurodiversity Talent Program, which aims to empower current and future neurodiverse employees and give them support they need to realise their full potential at work. So again, if you're new today, you're very, very welcome. Just to let you know that we use the format is we asked our presenter to give a presentation, so it'll be somewhere between 30 to 40 minutes, and then we go over straight to the Q&A. We have the chat function that's open. And usually the first thing we pop into the chat is, hi, it's Dublin. It's a little bit cloudy out here today. It's not too warm, so we'd love to hear where you're coming from. Pierre was telling us it's much quite similar in Copenhagen today, but it's likely to be quite sunny tomorrow. If you do have any questions for Pierre, any questions, comments, we do very much welcome. We would ask you to pop them into the Q&A rather than the chat, because the chat goes rather fast and the questions get missed. If you pop them into the Q&A, we'll see them and we can ask them over the last 20 minutes for you. So without any further ado from me, it's my pleasure to go back and introduce Pierre and say thank you very much for coming along today, and we very much look forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much, Ken, and thank you, everyone. So let's start right with the presentation. So in fact, during spring 2019, I hit a wall. And it happened while my youngest neurodivergent son left traditional school system after having been repeatedly bullied by adults who didn't know how to welcome difference. And with his brother, they both had been diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia. And they made me realize I had ADHD too, which shed a light on my personal struggle over the years, but also on the origin of my own talents and skill. But it was a bit too late for me, and I burnt out. They also made me realize something else, that over my 27 years in the video game industry, I've been collaborating with a lot of neurodivergent colleagues. So my name is Pierre Escaich, and I am very pleased and honored to be with you today. And here is a bit more about myself. I am French, as you can hear, and I am living in Copenhagen, Denmark, while working in Malmö, Sweden for Ubisoft. am part of what appears to be a very neurodivergent family, covering a nice mix of ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, a good dose of anxiety disorder, and a tiny bit of giftedness. And whoever said that neuroatypical tend to attract each other, I believe they are right. So in life, I am a passionate individual who tends to go all or nothing on what I'm doing. And keeping my focus has always been a challenge for me. Some are saying that my way of thinking is rather atypical. So today, I will share with you my experience creating a neurodiversity program at Ubisoft, a video game key player who is currently employing more than 17,000 people across the world. And during this talk, I'll introduce you first to the world of video gaming before sharing how we view neurodiversity at Ubisoft in a work context. I will then take the time to explain you the content and the genesis of our neurodiversity program. I will say ND most of the time, if you don't mind, before sharing with you some key learnings from that experience, as well as open challenges that remains to address. And to conclude, and before opening the Q&A session, I'll be happy to present you a short video illustrating how our neuro-inclusive approach can impact the games we develop and by extension, our audience. So let's dive into the fascinating world of video games by starting with a quick exercise, if you don't mind. I would like you to picture a gamer. Ask yourself, who are they? What do they look like? What's their gender? How old are they? Where are they playing from and in which part of the world? Can you see them now? So even if you don't play game yourself or know anything about the industry, you probably have an image of what you even subconsciously think a gamer is. And when I ask you to picture a gamer, maybe many of you probably took cues from depiction of gamers you've seen in movies or on TV, or stereotypes you've heard repeated by family or friends. The result is that many of us tend to picture a gamer as a white guy, most likely cisgender and straight, in his teens or early 20s, playing alone in his room somewhere in the US, UK, or Canada. But in reality, the games industry is far from this cliche. Games are a part of mainstream culture today. With more than 3 billion players worldwide, video games generate more revenue than any other part of the entertainment industry. And with that in mind, let's revisit our image of a typical gamer. So, who is really today's average gamer? First of all, women represent nearly half of the gaming market today, and more than a third of engaged gamers, meaning they play at least once a month on any platform. And people of all ages like games. While about a third are in the 9 to 25 years old category, the 26-40 and 41-56 years old category, I'm part of this one, are not as far behind as we might have imagined. In fact, players are as diverse as the world we live in, right? Reflecting all genders, sexualities, races, ethnicities, cultures, ages, neurotype, disabilities. And I've been spent 27 years in this industry and played a lot of hours. I believe there is an intimate connection between video games and neurodiversity. Sorry. Maybe you have already noticed an often strong interest in video games among neurodivergent individuals. And I believe there is an overrepresentation of neurodivergent individuals among the most engaged players. Unfortunately, we're still missing proper studies to demonstrate that. Let me illustrate this with a quote from an autistic player that sums up the situation pretty well. Here's what he said: "We come to play because video games are fun, but we continue to play because this is where we can find a safe, non-judgmental space." Talking about game developer, if I am asking you who did create the video game industry, what would you say? Probably geeks, nerds, techies. It's us. Those are some nicknames used for many neurodivergent individuals. And this time is backed by data. In 2022, the UK Interactive Entertainment Trade Group found that 18% of game developers in the UK self-identified as neurodivergent, and that ADHD and autism were twice more represented than in the general population. And as you know already, adults on the autism spectrum tend to face higher unemployment rates worldwide, as high as up to 80%. However, the video game industry stands out with 4% of its workforce identifying as autistic. So now we set up the stage in terms of what is the video game world. I would like to talk to you now about how we see neurodiversity at work at Ubisoft. What we see first and foremost are talents and not disorders. While us as neurodivergent collaborators, we may face challenge at work with reading, writing, memory, difficulty in sustaining attention, or with social abilities. Above all, we have talents and skills. Talents and skills that are bringing different ways to look at the world, think, problem solve, and communicate. In fact, everything we need to boost our creativity and develop games. We're talking here about creativity that sparks new ideas, authenticity that fosters genuine connection, or hyperfocus that drives deep understanding, and innovative thinking that pushes boundaries. Resilience helps us overcome challenges. Sensory awareness deepens empathy. Honesty builds trust, and strong verbal skills facilitate clear communication. So now let me share with you how those talents have their place within Ubisoft. And here I will quote the very own words of my peers, neurodivergent peers, at work. Les urgentistes. This is a French word for emergency doctors. Can you guess who they are? Yes, those are our ADHD colleagues, and I'm one of them. As ADHDer, we can excel in managing emergency situations, thinking outside of the box, adding our passion and drive into projects, and bringing our hyperfocus to solve problems. So at Ubisoft, we can find a lot of ADHD among project coordinators, IT administrators, creative directors, community developers, concept artists, but not only. The nurses. With 3D visualization skills above the average, our dyslexic colleagues think in pictures more easily, recognizing patterns and connections faster than average. Their creativity is really strong, with often great verbal skills and a strong level of empathy. At Ubisoft, we can find dyslexic within our artist community, concept artist, but also communication manager, producer, recruitment manager, world artist, but not only. The surgeons. Our collaborators on the autism spectrum can bring their great attention to detail and ability to find pattern in a large amount of data. They are also able to bring clarity in work organization. And at Ubisoft, we can find them mostly among our programmers, but also live ops manager, user tester, HR, project assistant. But not only. In fact, we count neurodivergent collaborators in every job function and at every level of responsibility. Unfortunately, I don't need to tell you that the average work environment in today's world is not so inclusive for neurodivergent talent. And according to a recent study from Birkbeck University in London, 65% of neurodivergent workers do not want to disclose their needs to their employer, fearing mostly negative impact on their career, or sometimes feeling too ashamed to ask. So facing this kind of environment can lead them to mask. They mask to fit in and get a sense of belonging when their behaviors and traits are stigmatized at work. But masking has a high cost in energy. And it's an energy they won't use on the development of their own talents and skills for which they have been recruited, which may impact negatively their work contribution. So what could we do then at Ubisoft to unlock all the talent and skills potential of our neurodivergent collaborators? Well, this is what I'm going to share with you. We basically launched a dedicated program with two different parts. Here is a story behind our neurodiversity program. So we started with a grassroots movement. As often said by neurodiversity advocates, nothing about us without us. So I created the ERG 4 years ago. ERG stands for Enterprise Resource Group. The Neurodiversity ERG, this group created 4 years ago, gathers today not 600, so I have an update, it's 700 members from all horizons. And this group starting during the COVID-19 pandemic, while traditional informal network in companies were interrupted. Intersectionality in the group is really strong, with a noticeable overrepresentation of women and LGBTQIA plus members. It is also hosting a dedicated group on disability and chronic illnesses. So this ERG, this group, focus first on raising awareness on neurodiversity across Ubisoft, with more than 50 internal events organized to date, sharing employee testimonies and expert feedbacks. And the heart of the ERG is really a private online discussion channel. Like at the beginning of the neurodiversity movement back in the 90s on internet with inlive.org, for example. So in this private online discussion channel, you'll find a very active community and strong peer support. From finding the best noise cancelling device to share tips to parents of neurodivergent kids. From encouraging members to enter a diagnostic journey to discuss how to improve focus, reduce anxiety, and ask for accommodation at work. This group is extremely benevolent, supportive, and highly effective. And to give you an idea of the volume of the discussion, within a year of activity, it represents 400 original discussion threads with more than 2,000 answers. What I can say that the ERG, the community, contributes this way very strongly to create psychological safety within the company. And let me share with you some illustration of this. Some quotes from our members first. The work done by the people in this ERG, the support, it's honestly the first time I've ever seen the subject of neurodiversity talked about so openly in a professional setting. And on a personal level, it empowered me to ask for small adjustments to make work easier, which was amazing. Another one. If it weren't for all the documents and presentation and people in that ERG, I don't think I would have had the courage to speak up. So in this community, we welcomed individuals who decided to embark on a diagnostic journey after having seen our content. And while our ADHD community, with no surprise, has been super engaged from day one, our autistic community really took off after 2 years. In this online community, silent participation is essential. It offers to every member a space that respects each and every one's rhythm and way to communicate. And very importantly, the community is open to anyone genuinely interested by neurodiversity. So yes, we have neurotypical with us. Because for us, that is the very essence of what neurodiversity is. It's every mind. So to increase further the impact of the ERG, we then opted for a systemic involvement at company level to effectively support neuroinclusion. And it took the form of a neurodiversity talent program under HR and Diversity and Inclusion Department to provide training to change behaviors and also hands-on tools to assist systemic change in work practices. So what is our philosophy here? It's custom-made materials adapted to our video game context with realistic use cases. The content has been built with the community input, and we are targeting preferably operational HR and manager to support them in their daily task. The goal is to provide them with quick understanding and tips to apply immediately. So we offer one-pagers on neurological condition and work situation usable on the fly. In our internally made neuroinclusion trainings, we cover the topic of communication, evaluation, accessibility, and work organization more specifically. Sharing basic tips and practices to be neuroinclusive, or recognizing ableist language, setting up an adaptable work environment to accommodate collaborators' preferences in communication or work settings. And we also developed a unique resource hub that gather all neurodiversity related content, as well as set up a subject matter expert group, that's the SME acronym, to bring support on demand. So what are our results so far? Well, up to date, more than 4,500 employees have been using our resource hub, accumulating a total of 130,000 visits. All our recruiters have been trained to neuro-inclusive recruitment. And we started training our HR and people's manager to neuro-inclusive essential practices. We also have been developing and recently released a self-learning tools on neuroinclusion and neuro-inclusive communication that puts you literally in the shoes or in the mind of neurodivergent collaborators. So while the community set up the stage, raising awareness and offering peer support, the company developed and deployed tools and trainings to drive systemic and behavior change. So what is the benefit for the company, for Ubisoft, for any company to develop a neurodiversity program? Well, it's unlocking the talent and skill of our neurodivergent collaborators by creating psychological safety, raising understanding, and providing practical hands-on solution. This is what we call neuroinclusion on our side. And on this slide, I gathered for you some visuals of the materials we developed internally. We developed everything internally. So as you can see, we try to make it as attractive and easy to grab as possible. The one pager you can see on the left of the screen works as a quick way to brief people, but also to attract the attention of our colleagues. From there, they can go deeper in the rabbit hole by joining our training and visiting the resources included in our neurodiversity resource hub. The little image in the middle, Into My Mind, Neurostories at Work, is our self-learning e-module. That's not all. We also wanted to share back externally some of our experience. How? By creating a dedicated page on our neurodiversity program on Ubisoft corporate website. So there, you can join an online community, access videos, articles, and practical guides we develop, like our candidate decks and onboarding decks for neurodivergent individuals. You notice that little brain mascot all along the presentation. It has a name, Mindy, and it's a brain mascot that has been developed at one of our community members who is a very talented character artist. So what are the key learnings from this experience? I chose 5 points to share with you today, and with an additional global recommendation. So let's go into it. The first one. First key learning, focus on your current workforce and your current neurodivergent workforce. You know, while we may have an overrepresentation of ND folks within the game industry, you can be sure you have a significant representation of neurodiversity in every companies and organization. But as you know, as well as me, we tend to stay invisible and mask due to low level of acceptance. So also it's interesting to see that when we talk about neurodiversity at work, the very first neurodiversity program done in private or developed in private companies have been focusing heavily on recruitment and often on the autistic communities. So today I would like to advocate for another approach. Start by taking care of your own neurodivergent colleagues, all of them, because there are a lot. before even launching specialized recruitment program. Focus on neuroinclusion first. And the best way to do it is to organize first awareness events in your organization and then propose to support the creation of communities. The second key learning is leverage the power of community. So we all know this, but you can show to your employer that neurodivergents are like the canary in the coal mine. They will be sensitive first to dysfunctioning in your organization, which is quite handy for any organization. So once you support the creation of a community, you'll have access to new knowledge, feedback, solutions, and resources. And you can then identify early champions. Because without them, nothing will be sustainable really in terms of action. So cherish and support them all along the way. And to be honest with you, this program at Ubisoft started because of me and my close network. My company backed it up and welcomed it because it made sense for them. But I believe those grassroots approaches are the most impactful one in a work context. Also, it's good to underline that in a difficult economic context, it might be difficult to get budget and resources. But you can leverage the power of community to produce content, get knowledges, share best practices, drive change. Also useful to know for your employer, creating such a community will contribute to create additional informal network, which are essential to any organization. You know, at Ubisoft, I've seen people connecting deeply through the neurodiversity community while they initially didn't have to work together. But progressively, by knowing each other, they started to interact at a work level too. And of course, the community is also your main segue to drive change. The third key learning is to offer support and don't lecture. You know, when I look at the long list of recommendations made to manager and human resource people to include neurodivergent people at work, it makes me feel like I need to be a superhero 24/7. That is not reachable. This is not human. And this might be even scary for many. And even if I would like to, there are some days where I simply do not have the energy to be flexible, to listen actively, to be available. And I experience this as a parent of ND kids, as well as a manager at work. So our neuro-inclusive recommendation should be taken and implemented at the collective level. That means within your team, within your department or organization. Accountability for me can work only if it is applied at a collective level. When I'm working in a group or with a group, I tell my colleagues when I can't or doesn't have the energy. And then they can back me up, knowing that I'll do the same for them if they need it. And the tips I am giving to managers in my neuro-inclusive training is to normalize the fact to ask for and propose your help. So offer support, don't lecture. And you have to start this by approaching every colleague with a genuine belief that they are acting from an honorable place, assuming positive intent from everyone, including manager and HR. The fourth key learning is to scale with champions, one person at a time. So scalability is really a big buzzword in companies. Sure, but scalability, without any champions and relays behind will be absolutely useless and impactless. Through my experience, I've seen that the most efficient approach has been to go one person at a time. That may sound too big, but it is not. In fact, you just need to be consistent in your effort and action. Offer a central place to gather and consult information and create habits. At Ubisoft, the employee resource group on neurodiversity has been recruiting a regular 20 new members every month for the last 4 years. And the first way to recruit so far has been the word of mouth. The same goes for the training we propose. It might be longer, but it is more effective and engaging. The fifth key learning is about taking down barriers in the work environment. I think that neuroinclusion needs to be practical, easy to understand, and actionable at work. So identifying barriers in the work environment will help you to drive changes, get traction, and attach your work directly to the business focus of your employer. They want you to be able to express and develop the skills for which they recruited you. So start with the topic, for example, of managing focus at work and managing fatigue. Look at what's in the way. For example, open spaces is often the norm in work environment, while multiple studies showed that it is breaking focus. So what are we going to do to address it? To sum up those key learning, and as a final key learning, I would like to sum up with you the essence of the program that we built and how we connected it with business objective of the company. And I believe this model can work for almost any organization. First, we have to define our inclusion. So the way we define our inclusion is as a practice of establishing work environments free of any barriers, where every individual can fully develop their skills potential while being fully respectful of each and everyone's singularity. That's pretty long. So in simple words, it's fixing the work environment and not trying to fix people. And there is a business model behind our inclusion that can be appealing for many organizations. Here it is: maximizing the return on investment in employee talent. And I'm using here deliberately and intentionally business-friendly terminology. It's to bring on board C-suite executive. And what you should know is what may limit or hinder their talent and skills potential is quite simple. It is their work environment. To illustrate that, I'm often using a metaphor. Let's say you need to recruit the best singing voice for your organization and project, and you found it. It is the Little Mermaid. She's living in Copenhagen, where I live. So once recruited, you send her to Austin, Texas, because this is where your project team operates. 6 months after, you pay her a visit. It's weird. She's depressed, and she lost her voice. You know what did happen? There is no sea. There is no sea water in Austin, Texas. And you should have known that the Little Mermaid can sing only if she is in the sea. So you end her contract, and your main competitor recruit her and send her to Seattle. And guess what? She got her singing voice back. What changed is her environment, not her. So in this field, we still have a lot of work to do. And a recent survey we did in our neurodiversity community reported that a majority of them are facing barriers at work, preventing them to fully express their skill for which they have been recruited. So in particular, sensory and physical barriers that mostly prevent them to properly focus and manage their energy. And for many of them and of us, if the work environment do not properly support us, it will translate later into fatigue and health issue. So knowing that according to the US Job Accommodation Network, more than 56% of accommodation granted at work generate no spending for the employer, we have a powerful leverage at our disposal to act. And this is our next step at Ubisoft. So as you can see, our journey on neurodiversity led us to promote and implement neuroinclusion through the organization with a strong focus on individual talent and skill, trying to create the right work environment to let them all thrive. And by doing this, it is beneficial not only for neurodivergent coworkers, but also for every collaborator. Everyone needs their focus to be protected, for example. But those key learning wouldn't be complete if I was not adding some open challenges that remains. Each of them needs solutions and actions if we want to make neuroinclusion an effective reality. So what are they? First open challenge, including neurotypical. True neuroinclusion is about every type of mind and about how you can connect different minds together. You won't get creativity and innovation by simply integrated neurodivergent coworker who think outside of the box. No. Those ones will be at their best if they can meaningfully connect to neurotypical mind. And that is that combination that will spawn creativity. So far, it looks like neuroinclusion best practices only talk about how to better include neurodivergent people. This is not enough. We need to talk to neurotypical and all type of minds because, for example, it is not easy to work with me. I tend to disrespect rules and authority. I overtalk, and that's annoying for many people. It is also not easy to work with a colleague who is always telling you the blunt truth in its feedback. So we need to address the concerns of neurotypicals and spend more time on understanding how to design work environments that can facilitate different mind connection. And we know that establishing psychological safety is a must to be neuroinclusive. But once set up, how are you going to handle disagreement? Because if you don't know how to do it, you'll destroy psychological safety and we'll be back to square one. The second open question might surprise you or not. Reach out, male audience. So I initially never thought about having a different approach of neuroinclusion with gender. But the reality is that in my initiative, while I did massively attracted women and non-binary people, I did reach only a very limited male audience so far. And if I'm reflecting on my own personal story, I realized I had to give up on many models and expectations from society toward dads and male to embrace neuroinclusion and start being truly supportive of my kids. So a key there might be within adopting a very practical approach, focusing on the benefits. In all cases, we need a narrative here which can bring an angle that unlock male contribution on the topic. The third open question is for me destigmatizing dyslexia. Why? Dyslexic should be the biggest group in my company, statistically speaking. But when I look at the membership of the employee resource group, they are the smallest group. So the level of stigma is far too high on this condition in the work environment. We need to find the right way to approach it and lock it. I believe the link here with education is important. We won't be able to improve at work if it is not getting better in education, which leads me to the last open challenge. With no surprise, it's changing education system. Modern schools have been created alongside the Industrial Revolution. To democratize access to education, it used standardization, only one way to learn through reading and writing. And doing so actively excluded a big chunk of neurodivergent individuals. But we are in 2025 and industrial era is over. We entered a new era. What organization needs today as collaborators are people who have learned to learn, not people who have learned to pass exam and get grades. So we need schools that learn to truly include different type of minds, that drop rigidity to introduce flexibility as the default rule of organization. And experimentation and an example already exist all around the world. On a personal note, I hope this will prevent some managers writing a collaborator evaluation as a school bulletin. And I swear I've witnessed it far too many times at work. And also this change could help us to make accommodation and reasonable adjustment the norm rather than the exception. We're reaching the end of this presentation. And as promised, before starting the Q&A session, I would like to share with you a recent initiative we've done at Ubisoft and that illustrates well how by combining different minds together, we can deliver a result that can impact people's life. So what you're about to see is
Pierre, I think you may have just been muted somehow.
you're correct. So what I'm going to show you, thank you, Timmy. What I'm going to show you is a video about a game named Just Dance that is inviting you to dance, but we'll see we have a special topic we're going to cover. So now I'm going to unmute myself so that you can hear the video.
In recent years, mental health and neurodiversity topics have come to the forefront, and on Just Dance, we really wanted to contribute by raising awareness on those topics and provide positive representations of neurodiversity. So when we came across the song Bang Bang My Neurodivergent Anthem by Galantis, we really saw an opportunity to do it right, and that's how the project started.
What is ADHD? Well, it's a neurological condition that impacts mostly attention and executive function.
De ce déficit attentionnel va découler plusieurs choses. Premièrement, évidemment, des difficultés à se concentrer, le fait d'être extrêmement distractible, le fait d'être parfois un peu impulsif, et puis, parfois, mais pas toujours, c'est associé à une hyperactivité qui peut être à la fois motrice, ou alors ça peut être une hyperactivité psychique, c'est-à-dire on pense à plein de choses qui vont dans tous les sens. J'ai oublié mes clés, je discute avec vous, je me mets à penser à autre chose, je suis en train de faire quelque chose, je passe directement à autre chose, sans nécessairement aller totalement au bout.
We also have major strengths, like, for example, the capacity of hyperfocus on topics that passionates us. And we also thrive in chaos, tending to be excellent firefighter, while our creativity can be unstoppable with the specificity to really think outside of the box. Nothing activates the brain so extensively as music. In fact, music and dance can echo perfectly with ADHD.
When I play Just Dance, it feels like it creates this equilibrium where my body and my outside surroundings all of a sudden match the same rhythm and speed that my brain is going at.
Regarding the choreography, we try to translate the different state of mind of ADHD in energy and movement.
The speed line represents your thoughts that are racing in your brain, just like you may experience in an ADHD brain. Ultimately, the racing thoughts line form the infinity loop sign, which is a symbol of neurodiversity.
For the inattentive part, we call it the dreamer. We made like more floaty move, round and also a bit slower. For the hyperactive part, like we call it internal chaos, the movements are faster and we go to the right, to the left. We're moving around just to show how the thought go to one ID and another ID. And we had also the hyper-focused part where the coach really look at the camera, fix it, he stay in place. At the moment where he only thought about one thing, he's really concentrate. So we want to show it also with like more sharp movement, kind of robotic.
In the last part of the song, the coach takes off the mask as to say to the world that it's okay to be ADHD.
It kind of resonated with me as almost like a metaphor. You're a square peg in a round hole, and you're trying so hard to be round. It's always going to be a struggle. And so to watch the coach take that mask off and it feels like embrace their true self was very cool.
You know, coming out with your condition is not easy when ADHD is not recognized positively by society. That's why making this project was so important to us.
So as a video game and a video game company, we create the culture and we have a real impact on how players view the world, themselves and the others.
On parle beaucoup plus aujourd'hui de santé mentale en règle générale, c'est plus facile et c'est une très bonne chose parce que ça permet à quelqu'un qui a des difficultés de se dire je suis pas tout seul.
It makes me feel seen.
Having the opportunity to display positively ADHD in a video game like Just Dance was really appealing for us. And we hope it will be appealing for many audiences and players. So as much as some of us as game developers felt represented as neurodivergent, we hope it will generate a similar feeling among our neurodivergent players. And beyond, that it will contribute to show a true and positive representation of ADHD.
Oh, you're just muted at the moment, Pierre.
Thank you. I'm back now. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, this video, and a little tips for you if you want to recognize people with ADHD. On this video, we tend to use a lot of hands when we're talking. So ready for a Q&A session with you.
So, wow, that's really inspiring, Pierre. And my son is just calling me here in the background, but I'm sorry I was late for your talk. I'm going to have to watch the video back because, you know, when I came in and when I heard what you were saying, genuinely, I did find it inspiring. And also you had lots of concrete examples of, as you said, the open challenges. So yeah, I'm not going to take up any more time. I know Ken and Jenny might wish to put some questions to you from our audience this evening.
So good. Welcome back again, Pierre, and thanks for the presentation. So there's lots of questions coming in through the Q&A, and if anybody wants to get one in, you know, we have 10-15 minutes. We're not that amount, but if you want to pop them into the Q&A, we'll do our best to get through as many as we can between now and the end of the webinar. One of the questions just coming in from Thomas there, just in the Q&A. What are your most successful arguments to get buy-in from C-suite? What caused them to take action and not say, he used the word bollocks, so what the hell next?
Yes, excellent question. That's why I try to formulate a business model for neuroinclusion. The way to embark them is really your main assets are people and their skills. And you know, skills are hosted in people's mind. So you should pay attention to it. And it's really about saying that the reason to do neuroinclusion and to learn neuroinclusion is to learn what you can do to really optimize your return on investment. And sorry if it sounds extremely business, it's intentional. To please C-suite people, I assume to use business language, right? So that's why I'm saying it's optimizing the return on investment in employee talent. You know, Ken, if I recruit you, I hope to have access to 100% of your actual skills and talent, not just 50%. Because if I'm only getting 50%, it means I'm a bad investor, I'm a bad manager. Okay, so that's really the way to bring in people, a C-suite manager, into neuroinclusion and to say, well, you know, embracing neuroinclusion will help you to better understand how the brain is working. I mean, people brain are our main asset and your main asset. And you will realize that the expression of skill requires the right environment. And good news for you. You are not controlling people. You cannot change people unless you want to become a guru and lead a cult, which is usually not the objective of any organization. But there is one thing on which you have a total control. It's the work environment. And by modifying it, it can make wonders on the expression of people's skills.
Okay, thanks for that. Just before we go to the next question, just from Jenny, just to expand on that point. So just, you know, ADHD Ireland is a charity. We do get contacted by lots of, you know, global companies here in Ireland to come out and do talks about ADHD. But one of the big issues we find, and you mentioned it there in your talk, about 65%, is around disclosure. So I know you know that there's you're saying there's 20 people coming in every week or every month into the group, but there's still lots of people out there that aren't.
Yes.
So how do you get around disclosure?
Yeah, it's a super important topic. And it's interesting to see that you can see it from two different point of view, you know, two different sides of the river. So from an employer perspective, you will always meet HR will tell you, I don't understand. I'm a nice person. I'm really kind. I'm supportive, but I don't know why my employees they don't want to disclose to me. And on the other side of the river, there's us. We have a lifetime of being, you know, rejected, refused, not integrated. We need so it's very difficult to trust your employer when during your entire life at school, sometimes in your family, you've been rejected, you've been denied, etc. So disclosure, first of all, is a personal decision. I don't want to say here that I recommend you and everyone to disclose. No, it's not the point. Here is that disclosure is a personal journey. I think that what can be really helpful in a work context is to focus on people's needs. You know, neurodiversity is pretty new for me. I'm 53. I discovered it with my kids, so it's pretty recent. And it has been a long journey. In my journey, at one point, I was really on the identity stuff like, yeah, I'm ADHD. Today, I would like to kill all labels. Because neurodiversity, pourquoi? Why? Because neurodiversity is telling us that our brain is as unique as our fingerprint. I don't want labels, because labels leads to boxes, categorization, simplification. I want people, and my recommendation versus disclosure is forget about disclosure. Focus on people's needs. Ken, again, if I recruit you, I want you to excel in your job. So my first question to you will be, Ken, what do you need at work to excel? Can you tell me what are your preferences? Can we discuss about it? So focus on the practical need. And then you'll talk about, you know what? I have difficulty to concentrate, so I need a quiet space. That's different than saying, by the way, I'm ADHD, or I'm on the autism spectrum with a high sensitivity to noise. No, here you're just going to say, to do a good work, I need a quiet space to work. Or I have difficulty with reading, so what can help me is to have access to assistive technology. And that can help me to be more contributive. So focus the discussion on what do you need to work well, instead of, are you going to tell me if you have a label or no? No, it's not the point. Then disclose or not, that's your personal decision.
Okay, no, appreciate that. Certainly we would, in terms of our approach, we go down a similar road that the accommodation that's someone for ADHD, dyslexia or dyspraxia get should be universal for everybody in the organisation. Then maybe go to Jenny for the next question.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of people, Pierre, very inspired by what you've shared. And I suppose they're looking for lots of different ways of how best to get started, like who to go to first. And they recognize you've also done quite a lot internally. Do you recommend that, or should people bring in some outside experts to support them in that design? And
Yes.
if I can tag on there, successful interventions that you might have done that might also guide some of this.
Yes, absolutely. So if I did develop internally the content, it's because I had no budget. So that's the reason why. So now my recommendation is, you know, I said during the presentation, what we've been doing is public. So you can go on our website, there's a page, there are videos, there is intervention, there is blog articles. So if you, in your current job, you'd like to talk about neurodiversity, take it, show it. And you have other companies who are doing the same. It's in the public domain. So you can use what is existing and present it to your manager and say, I would like to talk about that. I think that it is an interesting topic that can help us also at work, because it can help us to think about how we work together. And then it really depends. The first thing you need to do in your organization, you need to, if you want to speak up and organize something, you need to find some allies. So I'm pretty old in my organization. So I've been an executive during 6 years. So I had the connection. So it was easy for me. But you need to look for some support for some sponsor. And then it's up to you, depending if you have budget or no. It's always nice to make a combination of external intervention and internal testimony. And to be honest with you, what really works for me is that I shared my story. And when I shared my story, I opened the Pandora box, because someone else come up after me and they shared their story, and another one, and another one. And this is how it's going now. And you know, if you want to really impact your colleague, it's better when you're telling relatable stories. So having external people joining is always great, but at some point you need also to share testimonies that are relatable to your colleagues.
Did you have another follow-up question on that, Jenny?
Yeah, just in relation to, I suppose, environmental design, do you have other things that you've brought in, like, I don't know, biophilic design or particular like sound, lighting stuff? Because we have some architects maybe in here as well, and designers who are looking at maybe some supportive things that have worked as well.
I want to work with them because we don't know yet. We have to build it. In fact, we know that the long-term solution is to apply universal design principle in the way we organize our work environment. And when I'm saying that, I'm not just talking about the physical workplace. I'm talking about everything, about the way we communicate, about the way we organize work, about the type of tool we're using, And we need to put an universal design approach at the heart of everything we're doing. That's a long-term solution. And it means, pragmatically, what does that mean? If you have a team, the next thing you should do with your team is to organize a discussion session where the topic will be, what do you need in your environment to work the best? And then give some hint. Can we talk about your communication preference? Can we talk about your feedback preference? Can we talk about your sensory preference? And by simply asking those questions, you will discover many things. You will discover that some of your colleagues, they prefer to express their ideas in a written form, not using their voice. You will discover that those other colleagues, they thrive better if they are in quiet rooms. Others will thrive better if they are in the middle of everyone. So get to know the preferences and start building and designing an environment around that. What strikes me, and we have to do it at Ubisoft, it's a work in progress, we have to begin. What strikes me is the open space topic. There's not a single study in the world that is saying that open space is good for creativity and productivity. So how the hell all companies around the world are still continuing to propose open space? And in open space, we seat people per teams. That is stupid. Why not trying to seat people per needs of focus? Because if I'm an artist, a concept artist, I need to focus on my task. If I'm placed on a noisy open space, I won't be able to concentrate. Why not creating silent hours at work, just like it exists in supermarkets around the world, etc., etc. So we need together to rethink how we see the workspace and the work environment. And we need to listen to the voice of the people concerned, so neurodivergent folks, but not only disabled people, everyone. So in the audience, if you're an architect, book me back because I'm interested to discuss.
Okay, well, thanks for that. We're actually just coming up to 6 o'clock, so I just want to pop in one quick question. Just I want to apologise to everybody. We did make an error. We really should have booked this webinar till 7 o'clock with Pierre to get through all the questions. I like this one because it flips the narrative. Un grand merci, Pierre. It was a truly awesome presentation. But then they go on to ask, what advice would you never give to someone trying to start a neurodiversity program?
Oh my goodness. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yes, the advice I will never give is try to do something only for the community. If you really believe in neurodiversity, it's everyone again. And I think that's essential. I mean, if you do something only just for the community, there is a risk that you stay together, you stay, we stay within ourselves. And that's not what neurodiversity is. I think that what neuroinclusion is that we need to develop the concept of neuroinclusion. We need to define it, and we need to work on how do we do to connect different minds together. Whoever you are, whether you are ADHD, dyslexic, you have dysphasia, you have PTSD, whatever, that's a real topic. So my advice, my non-advice is don't do something only for neurodivergent people. Include everyone. Elsewhere, I think that won't be efficient.
Okay, really appreciate that. Now that's sure we'll hand back to Tim.
So just to close things out, we can only thank you for your time, Pierre. I feel that this evening's talk has really, really resonated. And I also believe that if we were to write an edited book, for example, on neurodiversity and the workplace, or neurodiversity and inclusion, I feel that you and your company would make a fantastic contribution to such a book. For example, as a case study or writing a chapter. I say this because we've been working on writing a book on neurodiversity and mental health, and also neurodiversity in higher education. And from my vantage point, what I've heard here this evening, in terms of employment in the workplace, what Ubisoft and yourself do is certainly the most impressive that I've come across. So I'll be watching back this video with quite some interest. And again, thank you for inspiring and encouraging so many people here this evening. No doubt we must get you back again, because your talk seems to have resonated with people across sectors and across the community, for everyone. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you, and thank you as well to Ken and Jenny and everybody who attended. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. And yeah, hope to meet you soon. Thanks,
I
everyone.
hope so.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Take care now. Bye
Bye.
bye.